Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you love captivating stories about men transforming into women in unique and fascinating ways, then be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let's jump right into today's tale.
As she walked into her bedroom, Kristin peeled off her hoodie, tossing it onto a chair before heading toward the closet. The movement was casual, automatic, something she'd done 1,000 times before. But tonight it felt different. Her hair cascaded down her back as the fabric pulled away, tickling her exposed shoulders. A sensation, both foreign and oddly pleasant. "God, it's been a day," she muttered, rolling her neck to release the tension that had built there. "A day that's lasted approximately 17 lifetimes. She needed something comfortable. Something normal. No. Something that didn't scream, 'Look at me. I'm a woman now.'" She flicked through the hangers in her walk-in closet, past silk blouses and tailored blazers, designer dresses and skirts in every color. Kyle's wardrobe had consisted of about 5 shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, and whatever button-downs weren't in the laundry hamper. Kristin's was like a high-end boutique. Times Yuki. How am I supposed to keep track of all these clothes? She wondered aloud, running her fingers along a row of garments. I could go a month without repeating an outfit. She grabbed a pair of soft lounge pants in a heathered gray and a simple white tank top, quickly stripping out of her jeans. The denim slid down her legs, which she noticed with some surprise were remarkably smooth. Apparently, Kristin was diligent about shaving, or waxing, or whatever women did to achieve this dolphin-like texture. Her hands hesitated at the clasp of her bra. All day, she'd been hyper-aware of the undergarment, the way it supported and lifted parts of her anatomy that Kyle had only ever appreciated from a distance. The bra was the first thing to go. She had spent the entire day in it, and while it hadn't been as torturous as she'd initially feared, thank goodness for whatever expert had fitted Kristin for her lingerie. She wasn't exactly loving the feeling of a band wrapped around her chest. Sweet freedom, she sighed as the straps slipped from her shoulders. The release of pressure was immediate, and she couldn't help the small sound of relief that escaped her lips. Do women really wear these torture devices every day? Voluntarily, she tossed the bra onto the growing pile of discarded clothes, momentarily catching a glimpse of herself in the full-length mirror mounted on the wall. Whoa! She quickly averted her eyes, a blush creeping up her cheeks. Privacy, Thompson. Even from yourself. But as she slipped on the lounge pants, pulling the drawstring tight around her narrower waist, she hesitated. Her hand brushed against the waistband of the underwear she was still wearing. Tiny, lacy things that barely qualified as clothing in Kyle's estimation. She had kept on the tiny little panties she had put on that morning. Whirl. At some point during the day, she had just gotten used to them. "That's concerning," she muttered, pulling the tank top over her head. The soft fabric settled against her skin, outlining her curves in a way that would have been subtle on anyone else, but felt glaringly obvious to her hyper-aware state. And, despite how ridiculously small they were actually comfortable. That thought worried her. "Next thing you know, I'll be voluntarily putting on shapewear," she grumbled, brushing her hair out of her face. "Or God forbid, those jeans with fake pockets." Kristin shook her head, pushing it aside. She had way bigger things to think about than whether or not she was getting used to lace underwear. "Like the fact that I'm apparently a witch," she reminded herself, staring at her reflection. The woman who looked back at her was undeniably beautiful. High cheekbones, full lips, those striking green eyes that she'd inherited from her grandmother. But she was still a stranger. Or the fact that according to everyone except Gran and me, Kyle Thompson never existed. She continued, turning away from the mirror. My own parents think they raised a daughter, not a son. Tomorrow was Monday, the first day of the rest of her life. She had a job to go to, clients to meet, a career to maintain. She had friendships to navigate, social obligations to fulfill. She had been dropped into Kristin Thompson's life, midway stream, expected to pick up where this alternate version of herself had left off. How am I supposed to do interior design? She wondered, pacing the bedroom. Kyle's idea of decoration was putting up a beer poster that wasn't completely wrinkled. She paused, a thought occurring to her. But Kristin knows how, she murmured, remembering the sketches she'd seen in her office area. Her memories are in here somewhere. And her grandmother had mentioned that the more she leaned into her new life, the more natural it would feel. The muscle memory would extend beyond just driving in heels. It would encompass all the skills and knowledge Kristin had accumulated. That's both convenient and terrifying, she said to the empty room. She had a job to go to, a life to live, and somehow she had to navigate all of this without losing her mind. And apparently, brunch with Jake, she added with a grimace, remembering her grandmother's parting words. Jake, whoever he was looking forward to seeing her. The implication was clear, and it made something flutter in her stomach that she refused to acknowledge. One crisis at a time, she told herself firmly. First, food. Second, check work schedule. Third, figure out how to apply makeup without poking myself in the eye. Fourth, potentially have an existential breakdown. Fifth, maybe try a simple spell or two if time permits. Taking a deep breath. On. Kristin pulled her hair up into a loose ponytail, her fingers working through the motion with practiced ease. Another reminder that this body knew things her mind was still struggling to accept. She caught herself mid-whine movement, staring at her reflection again. Something about the casual gesture, the way she'd gathered her hair, twisted it, secured it with the elastic she'd automatically grabbed from her wrist, where apparently she always kept one. It was so quintessentially feminine. So automatic. So not Kyle. Who even am I now? She whispered, the question hanging in the air unanswered. She stepped out of the bedroom, heading toward the kitchen to make herself some dinner. The apartment was quiet, save for the distant sounds of city, traffic filtering through the windows. In Kyle's apartment, there had always been roommates stomping around, playing video games too loudly, leaving dirty dishes in the sink. Here, it was just her. Just Kristin, young, alone with her thoughts, her new body, and a refrigerator that, upon inspection, contained actual vegetables instead of just condiment packets and half-empty takeout containers. Well, at least I eat better in this life, she remarked, pulling out ingredients for what looked like it might become a decent stir-all. Right? Though I'm going to miss pizza rolls for dinner. As she chopped vegetables with surprising skill, Kyle had been known to require bandages after attempting to cut an onion. Not he won't. Kristin tried to focus on the practical aspects of her situation. She had abilities now. Magic. Luck. A direct line to forces most people never even knew existed. And she had her grandmother to guide her through it all, to teach her how to harness these new powers, how to navigate this new reality. One step at a time, she reminded herself. The knife moving, rhythmically against the cutting board. First dinner, then work prep, then whatever comes next, one step at a time. The mantra echoed in her head as she cooked, as she ate, as she finally settled onto her couch, with her laptop to check her work schedule for the next day. One step at a time. It wasn't much, but it was all she had to hold on to in a world that had utterly transformed overnight. One step at a time. Kristin stirred awake, her body feeling strangely well, rested despite the whirlwind of a day she had just experienced. The morning light filtered through the gauzy curtains she didn't remember owning, casting a golden glow across the Egyptian cotton sheets that felt impossibly soft against her skin. For one blissful moment, she existed in that liminal space between dreams and reality, where yesterday's transformation seemed like nothing more than an elaborate fantasy. Then she felt the weight of her hair against her neck, the unfamiliar press of her chest against the mattress, and reality came crashing back with all the subtlety of a freight train. Still, a woman, she murmured into her pillow. Fantastic, with a soft sigh that sounded musical, even to her own ears. She stretched, extending her arms above her head, her back arching slightly in a cat-like motion. A lithe, feminine grace moved through her limbs, making the motion feel effortless and elegant. At least I slept, she mused, surprised by the lack of insomnia that should have accompanied such a life-altering event. Thank God for small mercies. Or maybe thank Grandma's magic for big ones. As she sat up, the oversized tea shirt she had worn to bed, an old concert shirt that felt like the most Kyle C-ish thing in her wardrobe, slipped off one shoulder, exposing smooth, porcelain skin. The fabric draped loosely over her body, barely covering the curves she was still adjusting to. Jesus, she muttered, tugging the shirt back into place. Even my pajamas are trying to be sexy. Can a girl just be comfortable? The irony of her words hit her immediately. A girl. She had just called herself a girl without even thinking about it. Freudian slip, she told herself firmly. Doesn't mean anything. She blinked sleepily, brushing a strand of deep red hair from her face before swinging her legs off the bed. They seemed impossibly long now, ending in delicate feet with perfectly pedicured toes, painted a subtle rose gold. Kyle would have killed for these legs, she muttered, wiggling her toes. Though the maintenance looks like a nightmare. Time to start the day. Her first full day as Kristin Thompson. Dial. The thought was terrifying, and yet, oddly, not as panic-inducing as it should have been. Maybe it was the good night's sleep. Or maybe it was the supernatural luck her grandmother had mentioned. Whatever the reason, she felt strangely ready to face what was coming. All right, universe, she said, addressing the ceiling as she stood. Let's see what you've got for me today.